Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. I'm your host, Marguerite Crespillo, and I started this podcast simply dedicated to calling people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate. Hey, everybody. It's Marguerite Crespillo, and it is time for Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people. You know, I'm not sure if you know, but I'm part of eXp Realty, and we have a radio show, a radio program, radio channel, I guess it is. And we all get to contribute. Many of us that are podcasters and people here at eXp get to put our podcast up there. So it was kind of fun because we have this chat and we're like, hey, have you been on my show yet? No, you need to be on my show. And so John and I both ended up hopping in at the same time. We're like, we need to be on each other's show. And I got the honor of being on his on YouTube live the other day. And so you can go check it out. We'll put the link in our comments. But for sure, you're going to want to go listen to that because it was pretty good. And we pulled some fun stuff out of there. But today we're flipping the script and I get to have John on my show. So everybody, please give a big warm welcome to John Kitchens.
What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Fun. I'm great. We get to flip the script here. So
this is good. Are you mostly a host or are you on guest? Yeah. So you're not a guest very often?
Not very often, no. And just definitely a push to get on the other side instead of the one, hosting and asking all the questions.
Yeah, I haven't been. I mean, I've been a guest multiple times over the years for different people, but it's not obviously as often as I do my own show. And it is fun. It was fun being on your show the other day because I was like, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. And we just went along for the ride. And it was great. I enjoyed it. So I want to hear a little bit about you. I do have to, one thing I want to point out though, before we actually get talking, is you made a comment on your show to go look at the Cleveland Clinic empathy thing. And I had never seen that before. And I just have to say, obviously it was a bit emotional, as you watch it. If you guys are listening, go just Google search Cleveland Clinic Empathy and it will come right up. It's about 4.5 minutes or so. Mm-hmm. And it's so powerful because I just don't think sometimes, what came to mind as I was watching it is my husband. I love him. Him and my sons all get a little bit of road rage going on. And I start thinking, yeah, I'm like, you know what? Did you ever stop to think like that person who cut you off, like what was going on with them, right? Or the person who does, something stupid when you're driving down the road. Like rarely are they intentionally doing that. Obviously there's jerks out there, but most of the time it's just something they're distracted. They got something going on there. Anyway, I got sidetracked, but I wanted to highlight that. So I want to hear about you. Tell me about your background.
Yeah. Just celebrated, I guess, if you want to call it a celebration, 20 years in the industry, walked into, by definition, kind of an already successful organization and walked into a team within a brokerage as that was kind of becoming a thing. And, during that time, by definition, extremely successful. And it's, looking at that experience and it was really like a go fast boat motor on the back of a rowboat. That's really what was going on. That's the best way that's the analogy that I can give to it.
You mean the industry as a whole or the team that you were on?
The team that I walked into. Yeah. And it was just all gas. No, we didn't know where it was going. And so, I walked in on the operation side of things, and it was at the time, before being an integrator was even a thing, right? That's essentially what that role was coming in. And, one of the things kind of looking back over the years and seeing, so many operational people, integrator type individuals that step in, to really help the visionary, they either lean a little bit towards, marketing and sales, or they lean a little bit towards the finance and structure. And I lean towards the finance and in the systems and structure, but that's what was needed at the time, right? Kinder was already all gas, sales and marketing, and he just didn't have the balance of the systems, the process, the structure, the I's dotted, T's crossed, knowing your numbers on the financial side of things, right? Knowing the math and what critical math numbers to pay attention to. So being able to bring that in and kind of stabilize the ship, we went 430 units the next year, and then the year after that, 531, number 2 in the world for Coldwell Banker. And it was,
So you started out as you were on Kinder's team. Is that how
yep.
that's who you
Yeah.
started out with?
Yeah.
And help your
Wild
listeners
story.
understand too what where you're pulling the word integrator from, because I know that's
Yeah. So, integrator, it was a term with Gino Wickman in through EOS, Entrepreneurial Organizational System, wrote the book Traction, Rocket Fuel, where it really breaks down and introduces the integrator character into, into kind of positioning that function, that role. And it was an integrator before an integrator was even a thing. And, that's what Kinder was missing. And it was freaking wild, small town, Lawton, Oklahoma. I was born and raised there, and, Kinder was small town about 30 minutes just south, but pretty much, same age, same market. I never met the dude. I had never met him. But yet I knew him because you couldn't go anywhere in town without seeing him on a billboard, hearing him on the radio, seeing his yard sign. So it's like you already had this brand persona and presence. And we hit it off immediately. Like I said, stepped in October of 04, and, really, kept the train on the tracks. I did get licensed in January of 05. So, 20 years licensed in the industry. And, during that tough stretch in 07, 08, 09, I had to jump in the trenches. I had to sell. And that was just, there was no other choice during that time. And, Kinder went short sales. I went new construction. We just happened to have, a builder in the marketplace. And, it was such a critical time, because prior to that, I would just take the agents at their word, right? They would tell me something, and I learned so much in 07, 08, and I was like, God dang, what an idiot. Like
I was doing a ton of REO at that time. Yeah.
they
Hundreds of homes.
played me. Yeah. And, we had a little bit of an REO presence in 04, 05, 6 timeframe, obviously really heavy, running through the short sale side of the banking side of things. And when we went full steam back in, 2010, and made the decision to step away from Coldwell Banker, we were at a crossroads. It was either buy the franchise, or the best option at the time, especially in our market, was go independent. And we really weighed, if Coldwell Banker would not have made us renew the franchise agreement, we would have bought it. And there was like 3.5, 4 years left on the franchise agreement, and they wouldn't let us take it over. They wanted us to re-ante for 10 years. And I said, I ain't signing up for nothing for 10 years. Yeah. And Kinder said, me too. Let's go independent. So we went independent, and, really truly learned even more during that time frame, being independent, having to be the broker, ultimately responsible. You got the liability weight on your shoulders. You got the legal weight on your shoulders. You're responsible now for all of these agents that are out there, representing the brand, making sure that they're behaving the way that they should. And it was really, really critical, because I think for a lot of folks jumping into, the cloud-based brokerages, specifically speaking here at EXP, you don't value the legal aspect that EXP brings to the table unless you've been independent and had to carry that burden on your own.
Yeah. And I have, yeah.
And you have. And I mean, you talk about being able to sleep better at night, just knowing that I don't have that burden anymore.
100%.
That was worth the move alone, just in that regard, to remove that. And, from a unique perspective, during that time, we were trying to get Kinder out of production. Took us 3 times to get him out of production. One, we had to understand that you needed a duplicatable process, a system, a presentation to be able to present and articulate your value that wasn't about prior to that time. And Marguerite, you know this, it was the Me Monster presentation. Look at my award. We're number 2 in the world. Like, list with
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
That doesn't mean anything, right? We needed a duplicatable process that talked about how our system helped them accomplish their goals. So that was one thing. The other thing was learning the math. And there was one of the most important small business financial books that we were introduced to through our mentor was Greg Crabtree's book, Simple Numbers, Straight Talk, Big Profits. Without that book, we wouldn't have unlocked the financial model to make brokerages work, right? And ultimately, I mean, we were a team brokerage. We operated as if we were still a team, but we were a brokerage. But we needed to get the math right. And until that point, it just wasn't going to make sense. And, we got Kinder out because he had been spending a lot of time down in Texas with Michael Reese trying to get Kinder Reese coaching off the ground. And so, they built the coaching organization on what we built in Lawton, Oklahoma. And, that was where the coaching all came from, was everything that we were doing in the trenches there in Lawton.
What's funny is, so one of my earliest memories, I think the very first time I really remember hearing about them, in 2009 or 10, I think it was, I went to a Frank Kern event and spent some time with Frank Kern and was in his program for a little bit. And I'll never forget that video that they did with the boats and the helicopter. Do you remember all that? I know you do. And we should find it and post it. But I'll never forget watching it. I'm like, these guys are nuts. Like, what are they doing? Like, who are they? Like, they literally it felt like they came out of nowhere, because I'm in California, so I wasn't familiar. I didn't know their name. I didn't know them from Adam, but they just like all of a sudden like hit the street in this like crazy video with speedboats and helicopters. And it was pretty cool. Yeah. And because I think they were in Frank's program too at the time, right? Frank, yeah. That guy's a beast. He's hilarious, but
yeah. We were, that was the long hair Frank Kern days, right?
Yeah, so, it was. Yeah, before. Actually, the first time I met him was at an event he did with, I can't remember the other guy's name now, but anyway, and he showed up with his now wife, who was not his wife then. And I didn't know his previous wife, so it didn't matter to me, but I remember him, and she's stunningly beautiful, and she was, I think, like 6 or 7 months pregnant. So he came walking in to this event with her, and everyone was like, "Oh, what's going on, Frank?" But it was a fun event. And I remember, like I said, shortly thereafter seeing your guys' videos with the speedboats and all that. And I was like, okay, they're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, thanks to Frank, thanks to Dan Kennedy, I mean, we were investing heavily in trying to figure things out, and I think that's always been, one of the things, really early on, right? We've always been about growth and always pushing each other. There wasn't, a week ago, I would drop a new book on Kinder's desk and vice versa, the same thing. And, I was the one that uncovered and found Jay Abraham for us. And, we ended up,
he's amazing. Yeah.
Jay's incredible. And so you look at, those key characters during that time frame, and really shaped, who we are today was all of the work and time and energy and everything we put into them. And I mean, everything that we would generate revenue wise was poured back into, our development and education and just learning from the best of the best. And so, we always joke, get out of Lawton. And I was really the last one to get out of Lawton, just holding the brokerage together. And really what kickstarted it is that, Michael and I are the ones that go way back. We go back to junior high school days. We played junior high golf. Yeah, we played junior high golf, golf together. But we were also first roommates coming out of high school into college. So,
oh wow, and Michael's brilliant. I mean,
that's a whole nother podcast for that experience.
100. I know. I need to get both those guys. Well, I need to have them on separately because I mean,
you got to. You can't have them together. So nothing would ever get done. But so during that time frame, so we had always wanted the three of us to do something. Well, Michael's right hand, his integrator, decided to pursue another opportunity. So it was like, hey, if we're going to do it, we need to do it now. And we did. We came together, we crashed and burned. We tried to take what we were doing in Lawton, and we're like, oh, that doesn't work in DFW. So we got to take a different approach. And we did. Once we figured it out and really nailed the partner model, we went, we hit gas. I mean, we did, 25 units and 2.2 million in revenue in, first 13 months that we tweaked the model. So we're like, okay, we got this. We figured it out. This works. We know what works just from our experience, but in the coaching side of things. And in 2012, the guys in the coaching program, they needed to have a higher level place for their top coaching clients to go to. And so they created, Mastermind. And at that time, you had to do $1 million in revenue to even apply to get into the room. And that was a big deal, back in 2010, 2012, nobody had broke the 1,000 transaction mark just yet. And, so it was $1 million in revenue, and then it was 1,000 transactions as you look at the growth of the teams. And so Kinder was like, listen, man, we need somebody to coach these folks. And I'm like, I'm in. And I kind of laughed because every one of them called me every day anyways to be like, what are you doing? What's working? Right. I'm going through this coaching program. I got these coaches over here. Wally's coaching me, but yet he's saying, hey, you're doing this. I just want to talk to you. What are you doing? So it was just a natural progression. And, for me, that's, after we shut down the brokerage in 2017, when we moved over to EXP, it's been full-time coaching, from 2012 through 2017. It was both, right? It was coaching and kind of a unique, maybe kind of a growth strategy position within the brokerage. I was there every day, coaching and consulting the leaders and the leadership, advising, don't do this, holding their feet to the fire during that time. So I always say, such a unique perspective with the amount of one-on-one coaching calls I've had, what we did in Lawton, Oklahoma, small town, average price, 120,000 to DFW at the time. Our average sales price was still a little south of 300, but I mean, that was almost triple the sales price from Lawton. So we were like, I was happy with that role. So, the coaching element has always been a natural thing. Growing up, my dad was in the public school system. He's a Hall of Fame coach. In the public school system for over 40 years. Wow. I mean, I grew up in the locker room. I grew up out on the courts, and I grew up on the golf course. And so it was just hardwired into me. I just didn't know where it was going to fit. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I saw my dad's paychecks and I was like, man, I don't want that life. Yeah. And so it was just really just kind of, navigating the waters, and it just naturally kind of fell there. And, 13 years in the one-on-one space, I think, because we track everything, right? So it's looking probably in the next couple months before our quarterly event that we host called Kitchen Table. We'll hit the 10,000 hour mark in one-on-one coaching, which is wild to even say out loud. And if you follow the 10,000 hour rule, and it's funny, like I still don't even feel like I've hit my stride of being a coach, and, approaching the 10,000 hour mark is a pretty cool thing. So looking forward to the next 10,000.
Who was it? Malcolm Gladwell talks about that. And I can't remember which book it is. I think Blink. And he talks about 10,000 hours, and it really is a pivotal time. Like when you look back over, like, as we talked about the other day, I've been 31 years, in real estate. And I look back over my career and how much things have changed. Like, I didn't really think about the whole team thing and all that. But when I started, nobody had teams. Nobody, we had assistants or whatever like that. But I remember early on, one of the first things I did was get an assistant. And everyone was like, oh, you don't need an assistant. Well, that assistant pushed me in different ways. It pushed me because now I had to be accountable to pay somebody every, couple of weeks. And I had to be accountable to answering to somebody other than myself. But between having, the more team environment now and having coaching, I mean, I don't know how people have gotten anywhere without having a coach at some point in their life for a variety of different things. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm probably at one of the only times right now in my career where I currently just at this moment, like, don't have a coach, only because I'm kind of in
Yeah.
between figuring stuff out. But I always have from early on. I got into coaching programs. I was in bi-referral only back in the day. I was in the core for a while, and some of these different great coaching. And I think about the impact that has made on my
Mhm.
career. And I can only imagine the kind of impact that you're making in the 10,000 hours. And I agree, you're just getting started. I mean, this is
Yeah.
when stuff gets good, because now you can take that whole 10,000 hours and look back on it
Yeah.
and look at all the lessons you've learned and all the mistakes you've made and all the,
Yeah.
we all make more mistakes than successes many times, but,
Yeah.
and all the maybe damage we've done that we've had to repair, or all
Yeah.
those different things over the years. Uh, it definitely has an impact on you personally and
Mhm.
on the people that you surround yourself with. And I love the concept of kitchen table. I'm not familiar with what you guys do, but I keep hearing lately, I keep hearing it more and more about who you surround yourself with matters, right?
Yeah.
And the people that you're hanging out with and the people you talk to. I'm blessed to be Brent's, direct. I was sponsored by Brent and brought in early on, and he's been a great leader. In fact, it's funny because I'm in his office. So he put in this big office last year, and I moved into his office. And so I have a little office in there. And I had my own office for a long time. So it was a big ego thing to, like, shut my
Mhm.
office and move into Brent's office. But I love, love, love it there. And he was walking by, and I said, "Hey, can I talk to you for a couple of minutes?" He's like, "Sure." So he comes in, and I go, "Close the door." And he goes, "Oh no, am I in trouble?"
Yeah. He's
I just said,
amazing.
I'm struggling a little bit in this area. And I love that he's, was able to just say, "Hey, I'm going to be really, honest and blunt with you. And here's what I see that you need to do." He goes, "You are a leader and you're not stepping up." And I'm like, whatever. And then all of a sudden I was like, he's right. And you need those powerful people
Uh-huh.
around you, I think, or the people that you have enough respect for that will call you out. Like, that's
Uh-huh.
what you most, especially stronger personalities, right? Like, we need somebody who's like, "No BS. I'm going to tell you how it is. Here's what you got to go do. And don't come back until you do it. Like, I'm not going to keep playing this game." And I think that those people are like, when I think back over my life, those have made the biggest impact on
Mhm.
me.
Yeah.
Is
It's
the
the
people who
people
just
that
tell me how it is.
yeah, they tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And
Yes.
the reason they do that, it's a level of kindness. They're not, the difference between kindness and nice, right? A nice person would never tell you that. A kind
Right.
person will.
Right.
And so I think making sure that you're putting those type of people in proximity to you, and giving them permission to hold you accountable and call you out. And there's a great exercise in Patrick Bet-David's book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. And it's the exercise of identifying your inner circle. And, looking back, that's the exercise, right? Because it's the whole Jim Collins, right? It's who, then we can figure everything else out.
Yeah.
And it's making sure that you have that circle. One of my favorite quotes is a Nipsey Hussle quote. If you look at the people in your circle and they don't inspire you, you don't have a circle, you have a cage. And
I like that.
so being able to build that circle, and he gives the framework, Bet David gives the framework of how to build your inner circle. It's like on page 180, 181, but there's six equity buckets, and you got to score them on a scale of 0 to 10. And the most points you can have is a 60. And when he says for somebody to be in your inner circle, they got to be a 50 or above. And if you do it, you're only going to have, 2, 3 max. I feel fortunate. I have 4 in my inner circle. So I feel really blessed that, as you go through that, and you gotta keep evaluating it, because some people will dip below and some people will rise up, but just based upon seasonality of their life, what's happening. And so it's a great exercise. It's one that, I don't take for granted. And those are the people that you reach out to, if not daily, on a weekly basis, right? You're staying in high touch, high proximity, but it's real tight, right? It's a real tight circle. And then we have the circle outside of that, and then a circle and a little bit bigger circle. But it's that real tight inner circle that can really shape and help course correct and direct you, with the big equities of our life with health, wealth, and relationships.
I think of that circle. I've always thought of it. I'm sure I saw it somewhere, of like a dartboard, right?
Yeah.
And it's got all that, and you get the most points for that little teeny tiny
That's your inner circle. That's
circle
your inner
in the
circle.
middle, right? That's where you get the most points in the game of darts. And it's just like that in life. So how did you guys end up? How did you end up at EXP? Like, I think that's kind of a fascinating story, because you were a big independent too, right? How many agents did you guys have at the time?
Yeah. So when we had shifted the gears within the DFW and going kind of what we call partner, um, where we partnered with agents in a geographical and MSA, a market service area. We would partner with them, and part of our value proposition is that we were going to get them 3 new listings a month. That was, you partner with us, we're going to help you build. You're going to become, the Incredible Hulk in your marketplace. You got this geographical location. We're going to guarantee that we get you 3 listings a month, and we're going to help you build the biggest brand in that market service area. And we were well down that path. That year, that was the first year we did, 2.2 million revenue in DFW. We had signed 22 partners, and we were, brought in our first regional partner out of Atlanta. And, we were hitting the gas. And, early on that year, we were given a video to watch from a good friend of ours out of Austin, Texas. And I watched maybe 10 minutes of it, but it was EXP Explained.
Yeah.
But we were so fixated on our objective, on our model. And that's the whole ego piece that you were talking about a second ago. And when, one of the best concepts that you can really latch onto is outcome over ego. And, ego is about being right. Outcome is about getting to right. So what is right? What is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish here? What is the goal? Is that really the goal? So you step back, and I'm a big proponent of vision. And without a vision, the village will perish. And if you want to build anything worth building, it has to be a big, big vision that people that want to get on board, that are not visionaries, but they need to believe that they can accomplish their dreams being a part of your vision. And so, for us, the vision was big. We wanted 2,000 partners by like December the 26th, 2027, right? So like 10 years, we're going to have 2,000 partners.
Oh my God.
So when you have a big, compelling vision, the worst thing is that you can become so fixated that your way is the way.
Mm.
And if you're open to being wrong, then you can step and look back at other vehicles and other opportunities. And so during that time, I had been coaching Al Stasic since 2013, and here it is 2017. And we got Al out of production. He had a great team, Stasic Group in Cleveland. They were rocking. And, as Cheplak likes to say, he got some early Christmas presents in the middle of summer. Yeah. And, his top 2 agents left. They bid out an opportunity. So they went elsewhere. And so he was staring down the reality that he was going to have to get back into production. And if anybody knows, if you escape production, it's like getting out of jail and, for the weekend, and then you got to go back in. Yeah. And so he was like, there's got to be a better way, right? Because that's kind of always been our mantra. There's got to be a better way. And about that time, he gets a video from Cliff Freeman, who Cliff was one of our coaches at NAEA. Oh, cousin Cliff. And Cliffy hits him with, tell me I'm crazy. What am I missing? And Al watched it. And of course, being Al's coach. So I got 6 hours with Al, 7 hours with Al, 8 hours with Al. And then we're like, we need to show this to Jay. Let's get Kinder's feedback. And then he spent, the next week. And, once Jay finally wrapped his head around it, because we were juggling, that year, NAEA and the brokerage, it was a $10 million company. When you look at, combining kind of the brokerage was kind of a off org chart of what we were doing with NAEA, which was the coaching organization. And so combined, we were a $10 million company. And so juggling that, there were, 50 plus employees, if not more, tremendous overhead. The brokerage alone was costing us 6 figures to operate. Right. Wow. It was, every month it was 104, 106,000 every month. And so, you start to look at it and you're like, can we get to the vision faster by latching on to this vehicle instead of the vehicle that we're a part of?
Yeah.
And, most people, their ego won't allow them to do that. And so for us, we step back and like, okay, what goes away if we say yes to this, right? What's the ripple effect? And it's like, well, for the most part, 100,000 of that monthly, budget goes away.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, good. That's
Yeah.
a start. That's a
It's a
start.
big number. Yeah.
And so, listening to that, having multiple conversations with Brent, really starting to understand the vision, the values. But what got us was, Brent said, you're coming to EXPCon in Fort Lauderdale. And we got on the plane, we went out there and he said, listen, I'm going to set you guys up. You're going to have breakfast with the president. You're going to have, happy hour with the GOAT, but you're going to have lunch with Glenn and Jason. And so right out of a mob movie, where, in Fort Lauderdale, 400 people at EXPCon.
I remember.
Just celebrating 4,000 agents.
Yeah.
And what was crazy, Marguerite, when we walked in that first night, which was awards night, we walked in, we just got off the plane. I mean, we went to the hotel. We were there. We walked in. We didn't know what we were walking into. It was an NAEA event. As everybody was going across, I was like, I coached them. Oh, I coached them. Oh, they were a part of NAEA. It was wild. It was really eerie of what was kind of happening. And we had already done a lot of due diligence. We were coming over. Vicky was president at the time, so we had breakfast with her. It was nice. Obviously the GOAT for happy hour was
Gene Frederick.
So obviously that was entertaining. And then, but lunch was the magic. And it was right out of a mob movie. We were back down there in the hotel in the back room. And, I remember, Gove's over here, Al, Gaydosh, Ryan Reilly. I mean, there's, good friend Alex Piak. We're all here. Kendra and I are sitting right across from Jason and Glenn. And we're listening to Glenn tell the vision. And right, I'm already big on vision, right? And listening to tell the vision and kind of what selling residential real estate was going to mean to the whole EXP umbrella, right? EXPI. And just listening to him, what's coming, what they're going to do, what's happening, why it's this way, and just really listening to the vision and understanding the core values. Got up and I looked at Jay and I was like, I was already in, but I'm way in. And that's why, I can latch on and understand from a vision perspective, but where I saw it in action was shareholders that next year in Orlando and sitting in the audience, listening to Glenn check off the boxes of everything that they accomplished. And I was like, he told us he was going to do that. He told us he was going to do that. He told us he was going to do that. I had never seen execute at that level. That was the first time, right? That I had seen execution at that level and really just become a believer. And like I said, I'm big on vision, and the founding anchor to vision is core values. And starting to understand the values of that organization and how they align to our values and to my values. But the one that always stood out was obviously agile, but sustainability. And I started to recognize every decision that leadership makes is, one, is it going to be what's best for the agent? And two, is it sustainable?
And I love that so much too, because as I watch a lot of these, copycats pop up and, I mean, we've clearly changed the entire industry. I mean, there was nothing like this before EXP. No. And there's a lot of people coming in, and I guess because maybe that's been pounded into my head so long since I've been here 9 years about how important sustainability is. But to watch them, it just gives me anxiety for some of these copycats. Like, what's going to happen to them? Because obviously nobody wants to see anybody fail. But like you said, when you have ran your own brokerage and you understand the numbers and you understand what it takes on a daily basis on minute decisions, little tiny decisions that you don't think are that big become big in the scheme of things. Like even laying out the whole revenue share, like what crazy, insane math wizard like figured that whole thing out. I mean, I failed algebra 3 times, so it clearly wasn't me. But I think about, and even some of the recent things that have come down are so powerful, because you're right. If none of it really matters if it's not sustainable.
Right.
And what's so funny is I remember when when you guys came blazing into the scene, and the words out of his mouth were, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee it. And I think about that all the time when I'm watching some of these, other people. And I mean, obviously we want them to be successful too, but
I
it's,
appreciate them because,
yeah.
healthy competition is important. And I think you get to a certain point, and this, I mean, you're either growing or you're dying, and, cruising and complacency is not growth. And I
Mhm.
honestly don't believe the iterations and the moves and the decisions, if we didn't have that type of competition pushing us to
Yeah.
continue to tweak the model and continue to evolve and continue to keep running through the filters, right?
Yeah.
What's going to be best for the agents? Is this sustainable? Let's stay agile. Let's like really just check all through the core values. And so I appreciate healthy competition in a way that makes you continue to add more value, which is just iteration, right? You just continue to iterate on the model, is just adding more value to the model itself.
Well, and I'm going to circle back here for a second before we wrap up today, is that your guys' big vision was 2,200 partners by what was it originally?
It was 2,000 partners within like a 10-year time frame, and
Right.
like
And so now you've been here at EXP 8 years, about, right? Just around 8 years. And you guys, you got to be getting close to 10,000 agents. How many agents you guys have now about?
Well, the way it is kind of broken, and then you can kind of look at the Honey Badger Nation that we can only see
Yeah.
because the ripple effect just goes beyond the 7th level, so it's impossible
Yeah.
to track. What we can see is north of 13,000. So what was funny with the 2,000, it was done in less than 12 months. So it's just like when you find a better vehicle, when you know the destination and you know where you're trying to go, you don't, like, the worst thing you can do is jump on the Titanic when you've got Elon in his spaceship to pick you up and you can go faster. You hop on with Elon. You don't ride the Titanic to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, it's impressive, and it's been fun to watch what you guys. What's funny is I didn't really know you. You're kind of the behind the scenes guy, right? I was
That's what
like,
the
oh my
integrator
goodness.
really does, right? He stays behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I'm like, I need an integrator is what I need. But it's
You
been
got
really,
a great example with Brent being your mentor. You got one of the best in the game with James, and
oh, for sure, James,
yeah,
and then Rob is his right hand guy. Rob, I'm sure you
yeah,
know him.
yeah.
I'm like, I could never afford Rob, but he's amazing. I mean,
Funny
he's
story
pretty.
with Brent. And so, Brent obviously, being connected with Kinder and everything, and coaching programs and things that they were a part of. And Brent was struggling. And Kinder told Brent, "Go, dude, you need a JK. You're missing a JK."
Yeah.
Brent goes and gets James. So
Yeah.
that's how that started.
Yeah, I love them so much.
They're so
Well,
amazing.
I'm so grateful for this time, and I actually look forward to
We're
getting to
gonna do it
meet you in
again.
person. Oh,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I need to get Jay on here too. I need to message him and say, get on my show.
Get them all. Get them all.
But
For sure.
yeah, but I'm so glad we got to have this time, and I look forward to seeing you live and in person here soon, one of these days. I don't know when's the next big event. Let's see.
I know Brent's got a bunch coming.
Yeah.
So
Right
maybe.
now, we're all focused on the regional rallies, but I know that all the build events are coming up, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
exciting.
Hopefully be able to catch a couple of those, and
Brent sends me a picture today of, you won't be able to see this, but he sends me this picture of his. Can you see his feet? I go, because he was on the influencer call this morning. I go, Brent, are you out on the water or on the yacht somewhere? And he sends me the picture of his feet. So I'm like, I need an invite to that boat.
So good for him.
The Naughty Nickel is where they're at. But
I love it.
well, thanks again, John. It's been a true pleasure to have you, and I look forward to getting to spend some more time with you.
Me as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us on Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people, the movers and the shakers, and the infamous integrators who are actually helping all the rest of the world get stuff done. So thank you for joining us. Be sure to share us on your social media and go out there and shine bright. Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in the real estate industry and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others to find our podcast for show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry. Also, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email to get early advance notice of upcoming podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and go out there and be a part of the elite masterclass and raising the bar on the real estate industry.